All right, everybody, welcome to Insights in Action with Orange 142, where we interview business leaders and agency owners and try to grab any insights we can from them. And today I've got Braden. Braden, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Jim. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm good. I know that you're over at HyperSocial, and I'd love to just learn a little bit more about your background and HyperSocial's background.
Sure. Yeah. So my background, I come from a B2B sales background. So I used to do a lot of before LinkedIn was big, before social media was big. I was knocking on doors, businesses' doors, doing door-to-door sales I did it for Aflac, so commercial insurance first. And then I also did it for my dad had a construction company and we were chasing the hailstorms, doing the residential knocking, but I was trying to do a lot of more of the business knocking for helping them get their roofs and siding and stuff replaced out in Missouri and things like that. So that's kind of where I stem from. I mean, I've done I've had way too many jobs since college, but that's kind of where I really found a spot that I belong and could actually stick with it. Much more than my other jobs, for like 2 weeks. So like, this is boring, I'm leaving, which happened quite a bit. And then I did really well with those. Luckily, I had some really great mentors in those positions as well. So they got to teach me more about building relationships and doing more than selling and everything that I was doing. And with insurance, I didn't do F like that long, but I did it long enough. But with insurance, you're not just the salesperson. Yes, you're not the underwriter, you're not this, but if they have a question, you're the one that has to show up on site and answer their questions and all that kind of stuff. So you become kind of fulfillment and you become sales and you become customer relationships and you become potential upsells and that kind of stuff. So you kind of get to be the whole cycle of sales, which is really awesome. It's not just, hey, here's the sale, which is what a lot of salespeople get to. They don't get to see the what happens after side. So I really kind of grateful for that. And then let's see, I'll try to go quick. 2016, I launched the old HyperSocial, which originally we did a lot with Instagram marketing. Weirdly enough, while I was doing that, I got an offer really shortly after starting that to come stay in a hotel in Dominican for free in exchange for helping them with the marketing. So me and my dog were like, yeah, this isn't sketchy. And we went down there and ended up staying there for 2 months, but ended up doing that for an entire year while building the original agency from the ground up. So we did it for 2 years, for 2 months in Dominican, 4 months in Ecuador, 4 months in Costa Rica, then 2 months in Nicaragua, all staying in places, helping them with their marketing, but kind of staying there for free. So that
Wow.
was so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Stayed in
such
the
a
mountains
unique
in Ecuador and yeah, it's
yeah,
great.
that's awesome. What a unique story. I've heard amazing things about all of those places, especially Costa Rica. I know there's a lot of nomads that go to Costa Rica. So that's really cool kind of exchange that you get to do because you just got this skill. So I guess I'm curious, within your background, Braden, well, you come from this sales background, which is very similar to me. I come from a B2B sales background, specifically digital marketing. So I'm sure we could talk about sales all day, but how did that thing happen in your mind where you're like, okay, I've been doing the sales stuff for a while now. Let me start moving more into social media and like, how do you start gaining those skills to be invited out to these awesome places to exchange your services for free living?
Yeah, I think the biggest skill that I've always kind of had is that, and there's a book titled this, but it's just kind of everything is figure outable. I think I've just been a better Googler and learner than a lot of people are willing to do. So, well, I didn't know how to do Instagram marketing. And I was like, we started it, actually, I was working on another project and we're trying to raise some funds for that. So we started HyperSocial while doing that to try and, hey, someone in our team then knew how to do it. So we're like, okay, let's learn from him, get this piece going so we can fund the other part of our project. The other part of the project never went through. We decided to stay with the Instagram side of things. So I really got to learn from somebody else who'd already been doing it and then got to say, okay, yeah, let's run harder with this because this is really cool. And back then it was just so basic in terms of the marketing services that we were offering, right? It was back when you could automate Instagram follows and unfollows and it's so much easier than Instagram lets you do now. Now it's almost impossible to automate anything on Instagram. And yeah, so that's how I got started in that was just like, had a project going on and got lucky enough to surround myself with the right people and then kind of ran with it. So I was like, yeah, I understand this. Let's just keep it going.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
didn't realize then how complicated it is to run an agency and do all the other
And
pieces of marketing besides just, hey, I can automate a bot that says follow and unfollow.
yeah, exactly. And all those things that those skills stack up on each other, right? Like you learn the skill first and then you start an agency and then you learn this like what it means to actually truly run a business and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
up until all of those things they're facing you, it's all just ignorant. Like you're ignorant to it because you don't know. And then you're like, oh my God, I've got to learn how to hire and fire people and I've got to learn how to like the back end operations of a company works and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's fun. It's just like you're leveling up, right? Like in a video game, you just each level presents a new challenge, which is cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely. It's fun though, right?
Yeah,
Because I where I see a lot of people, I know that there are a lot of agencies starting, and I think a lot of people would start more of an agency with their, if they've been in part of an agency, if they worked in marketing at a company, they would start their own agency, but they feel like they need to have a lot of it figured out before getting it going. I'm like, I knew how to automate Instagram follows and unfollows, and that's all I started with. And I
yeah.
didn't know how to make a website. I barely even know how to offer stuff. I just was willing to get on call to people and sell them on a $40, $80 a month service until I figured out more and more from there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a big thing, starting with where you're at. You know what I mean? Because there are people maybe like yourself who come from the sales background. So you've got no problem hopping on a sales call and being able to do a little bit of discovery and figure out if your solution is the best to help them, even if your skills are still like building, right? And then there's people on the other side who are really good at their skill, but they're not so great at sales yet. And that's just the other thing that you have to learn. It's one of those things of being dangerous in each part of your business, but the most important thing I think is just to get started, right?
Yeah.
Just to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting started. And then because we work with all kinds of B2B owners, but especially we work with a lot of agencies too, helping them grow their leads and stuff. Now we switched away from the Instagram stuff and do a lot more on the LinkedIn side of things and other stuff there. But a lot of them and most of us have started our business and we didn't come from a sales background. Now you and I are lucky to have, but most agency owners think of, okay, when they think sales, they think car dealerships, they think of this hardcore pushiness, but really for marketing and for most B2B services and agency services, you're just trying to find a problem. And do you have a solution for that problem? You're just saying, yes, I can solve that for X dollars per month. And if you can, then it should be just an easy sales process. There shouldn't be any kind of you need to do this or hardcore pressure sales type stuff or anything like that. Like it shouldn't be that scary. But most people think of it as the bad stuff and they feel uncomfortable telling people they should do something. But if you're really just more advising.
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, I know that HyperSocial's mission is to make B2B human again, focusing on authentic outreach through LinkedIn and email. And I guess I'm curious, how do you approach balancing automation with the personal touch required to build genuine relationships in the B2B space?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And of course, it's ever changing and ever morphing. But where I'm sure everybody who's listening to this podcast, I'm sure you have as well, Steve, that you've gotten your fair share of LinkedIn messages and cold emails are just like, okay, you don't even know who I am. You know, nothing. And you don't need to like research every single person that reaching out to. But I had one person reach out to me and he was like, I see you're the CEO / owner of a B2B service or an agency, or like he like made it like the most generic messaging he possibly could just so I could fit into his like bubble of who he's reaching out to. If you write everything that you're doing as if even if you're automating things, as if you're sending it to one person, not like you're sending it to multiple people. I think that's where so many people go wrong is they're like, I want to send this to marketing agency owners, my outreach, right? So I'm going to say, hey, I work with a lot of marketing agency owners, but you're actually sending it to one person. So you write it like, hey, I'm reaching out to Shiv. What does Shiv want to know on his side? What value can I offer him? What this and that? Then the way you're going to receive that message is so much different, right? You're not just going to pitch people because you're not just playing a numbers game. You're like, every single person I'm reaching out to is important. So if I write the messaging as if it is so, then things can change. And then you can automate it from there.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, actually, it's funny that you say that. My last role, I was the VP of sales at a cold email lead gen company. So you see that a lot. And so by nature, like when we have the backgrounds that you and I have, we audit the outreach messages that we get on things like LinkedIn and email. And what I like to do is I like to count the I's, like how many times does this person say I in the message? Because that's another thing. And this is for anybody listening out here. If you're doing outreach every day, erase your eyes and make it about the other person, because there's so many times people will message like, I saw that you do this, I do this, I would like to meet with you, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
just, man, come on, you ain't care about me, you just want you just want the meeting. And
Mhm.
honestly, in today, and I'm sure you can, you more than anybody can understand, people are not willing to part with their time. Like, it takes a lot to get a meeting, and so you've got to really do it the right way. It's this attention is the biggest asset that people have these days. And
Yeah.
so that's cool. So you guys are really writing to one person, and lots of times the nice thing is that you create that avatar. It appeals to a lot of other people. You're a digital marketing agency owner who has probably these problems. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. The other piece that we've seen be really helpful. So one, we'll incorporate some video in there as well, just
Oh,
because people can get the FaceTime that's really necessary. They can hear the passion behind your voice and things like that. So even though you're sending the same video to multiple people, there's a lot of benefits on that as well. And still writing those as if they're a one-to-one. It's okay if you mess up when recording your video. It's okay if you put over your words. Because like on Zoom, and like this, I don't get to redo what I say. I don't get to stop and restart it and
yeah.
say, hey, we need to make this more professional if I mess up. And so same thing with outreach videos is don't make them too professional, even if it's a one-to-many type thing, because the more professional it is, the more they're thinking, this is going to everybody. He didn't spend this much time on creating this video and making it exactly perfect just for me.
Yeah.
He knows they would know it's for a lot of people. So
Yeah, I love that approach, and that's something I teach to salespeople all the time in the sales process. So, like, you use your ums and your ahs, stutter over your words a little bit, like you're going to come across as more natural. It's like polished person, because anytime somebody comes across a polished person in SDR role or in a sales role, they immediately associate you with a used car salespeople or person, and people don't trust car salespeople like that,
that's
you
right.
know. So,
And they're too good with their words. Exactly.
yeah,
That's exactly what it is. The sleaziest salesperson at the car dealership is the one who has all of the catchphrases and the buzzwords and things like that. You're like, this person is too good. I don't want to deal with somebody who's too good. I want to deal with somebody who's good, but isn't, I don't know, it's so slimy
100%.
about the way they're being it. The way,
Yeah, and there was so much validity to that part. I remember, well, my best performing line when I would cold call was always, I would always open the same way. It was say, "Hey, Braden, you're probably gonna hate me because this is a cold call. Do you want to hang up right now, or can I steal a minute?" And like the amount of my pitch rate from there was so high, just
Mhm.
because I took the extra step to be human. And so,
Exactly.
and people for some reason they don't like to they see the way that they're pitched, they don't like it, and they use that same way to pitch other people. It's insane.
Gosh, that's one of the like biggest things that people are like, I got this message. I'm like, did you like receiving that message? They're like, no, but can we use it? No, we're not going to use the message that you didn't like receiving and use it as inspiration for the messaging we're going to put out there as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So your done for you service and HyperStar program each offer different levels of support for B2B businesses. And I guess, what factors help you determine which model will drive the most growth for a particular client?
Yeah. So usually, it's depending on where they're at in business. So a lot of earlier on people who know they need to have some lead generation coming in and things like that, we have them go through our HyperStar program, which is kind of it's a setup, implement, and a release program, right? So that you pay us to go through this training and teach you how to use our platform and write the messaging that works based on all the LinkedIn campaigns that we've run. And then we basically teach you how to keep it going from there and hand it off to you. So then your only recurring costs at that point are our software, plus we'd have you get Sales Navigator,
Yeah.
right? So you're at $175 a month for those two together, comparatively to our done for you, which is for somebody who's achieved more and they've got a little bit more finances to work with, but they usually have less time to be able to maintain the platform and do that kind of stuff or test or that kind of thing. So it's really people who have achieved a bit more and have more stability underneath of them. We say, hey, you're better fit for the done for you because you don't need to be handling any of this. Let's just take it off your plate completely. Versus HyperStar, which is let's get you set up. And then yes, you will have to put some time in, but less time because we're automating things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's value in both, right? One level is definitely like a kind of a teach a man to fish type of situation where they learn that skill and they have it forever, which is important in and of itself. But you're right, as companies get bigger, they just don't have that time, right? And so that's where you guys come in. So that's cool. And I honestly started to see a lot more build and release offers come to fruition in the lead gen space a lot more, because there was just this like distrust a lot. Because after everybody started their marketing agency, the next thing they did was start a lead gen
Lead gen
agency,
agency.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there was a lot of distrust. And so people move from, okay, you might not trust me, so let's just go into a build and release. And I think that model does work really well for the right type of customer, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Before we really kind of separated the two, there's also what happens with different levels of business owners is some of them aren't at the point, and we've all been through this, where we're not good at delegating and putting trust in other people yet. We've got to know everything ourselves before we can let somebody else do it. Like, I need to give the exact instructions. So there are a lot more of those, and it's okay to be this, but a lot more of those complete hands-on. I want control of all of it. I want to make sure it's all right. People, and usually people are at a lower income because they haven't reached the level of understanding how to make playbooks and how to let trust happen and how to delegate, because they either delegated and it hasn't worked, right? They've hired VAs or they've hired people and they're like, okay, they're not doing anything that as well as I would do it. So they've learned to distrust. And then, but I think in order to get to the next level, like there has to be a certain level of trust that happens. So we say, hey, let's build you up to that level. And then if you want us to manage it later on, we can, once you have a bit more, okay, this is going to work. Let's let HyperSocial take care of the whole thing for us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great approach. So it's this almost this entry level step to get introduced to HyperSocial a little bit. And then you guys have this trust in your system and your platform, so that if people do actually follow it, they will get the results. And eventually they could just kind of delegate that to you guys who are the experts.
You got it.
So you mentioned enjoying clients who understand the value of building relationships before selling. This is off camera that you chatted about this, but how do you help guide clients who may still be focused on those quick wins toward a more relationship driven, like long-term strategy?
Yeah, it's all about showing the numbers, right? So have you read Hormozi's books? So he has a perfect example of that, right? In the leads book, which is all about if you're willing to lead with value, you're going to have a lot more people say yes overall, which means you have lots of opportunity. Sell them on the things they need down the road.
Yes.
And you're going to also get people this is a pain point that they need to solve right now. For an accountant, if it's tax season's coming or they don't have a CPA or anything like that, cool. They're going to have that conversation when it's the right time. And sometimes the right time is right now. But then you also leave yourself open to doing business together later. And that may not be direct business, but they may, because you didn't just try and sell them immediately, they don't have a bad taste in their mouth to you. They've kind of got you in the back of their brain of, yes, let's do, I know Shiv does this, or I know Braden does that. Then when they hear of one of their friends or people who needs what we have, they're going to send referrals over. So there's this thing of treating people like a human and not just selling them. And you're actually going to be able to get more business later down the road. You're going to get more referrals down the road from clients or non-clients. And you're also going to be able to kind of get the people that you want to become clients, right? Not just anybody and everybody, because you're just pitching anybody and everybody. There's kind of almost by offering value, there's a way of leading with it. So it really is kind of like calculations of showing like the more yeses you get, look at the finances down the road versus just getting your yeses now, look what those finances are, right? Or where they would be.
That's awesome. And there's this other great thing that Hormozi says, which is expand your time horizon. And I think this so many times in coming from the lead gen space, when a company is coming to you for lead gen, lots of times what's happening is that they are like in a I need leads right now mode. You know what I mean? And so that I would imagine even for you, and I'd love to hear your answer around this too, is how you navigate that. Because companies coming, man, a lot of times it's, wait, hey, we've got 3 months without leads. We need leads now for our bottom line or whatever it is. And you're coming at it from okay, we're going to do this, but we're also this is a long-term strategy. And this is something that I would have to explain too, even though we were in a cold email back in 2021, when I was selling it, it was like a gold mine. You could get meetings with anybody with the most basic scripts. And for you, how are you balancing that? Like those clients who come in, well, I need leads right now, to, hey, let's build up these relationships.
Yeah. Again, I think it's showing them the finances. As long as their runway can handle, depending on what their cash flow looks like, that's always a bigger difference. And the goal with outreach is we still want to push people towards an end goal of doing business together, of a transaction, right? But you're much more likely to get more people to take that final transaction with you if you're willing to guide them along the way and offer them value first, because then they get to see who you are. They get to experience what you're working with you. So when we get to show, again, showing them the final big picture there, and then we'll still try and, with our messaging, because things are so timing related in sales, with our messaging, we still want people to be able to know what it is that our sales or our client does. So if it is a need right now, that conversation can happen, right? So we still want to get them the quick wins while trying to build this longer term thing that happens too. I like to say, we want to help you make sure that you have ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches on your table every day while you're working towards your Thanksgiving feast, while you're working towards your bigger sales and your longer term stuff that's going to be a lot higher value and a lot more revenue and income and profit for you. But you still got to keep you still got to keep food on your table. So it's kind of balancing both of those together. So it's a hard thing, I think, to communicate with clients who usually come to us saying they have a lead problem. Usually it's another problem along the way that we kind of just help work them through, whether it's an offer problem, because a lot of B2B people and agencies will come to us and say, we sold $5,000 and we rely on referrals, but we sell $5,000 a month marketing retainers. But that's not an offer that works for a cold audience, right? You can't go from 0 and a couple LinkedIn messages to a $5,000 a month retainer very often. I mean, it's happened, right? And it's happened quickly. One of the biggest deals I ever closed was for $20K up front. And a guy I connected with was like, hey, we're looking for this.
Yeah.
Can we hop on a call? And 2 weeks later, we'd close them. But that's because it was a timing thing.
Yeah.
But that's not always going to be that way. So how do we make sure that the relationships are happening first?
Yeah, no, that it totally makes sense. And I love your answer, because at first people do come in with this lead problem, but a lot of times it's an offer problem, and then it becomes a sales problem. As your sales people actually closing the leads that we bring you. And wow, Braden, this has been awesome. I loved diving deep into lead gen, just having kind of the similar background. So where can people find out a little bit more about you, and where can people find out more about your agency?
Yeah. So go hypersocial.com is our So they can come explore us there. We're doing a big overhaul on our branding right now. So things are a little bit messy there. Just know it's in the works, and we've got designers and developers working on it. The best way to contact me, talk to me, is through LinkedIn. Just search my name, Braden Wallake. I'll be the only one that's out there. If there's somebody else who has my same name, I'll be really angry, because I'm the only Wallake family I've ever met. People should be able to find me pretty easy.
Cool. And I'll have everything linked in the show notes below to make it easy. Braden, thank you so much for being on here. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. This was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks.